Hey everybody, welcome back. Psychedelic here. Acid Archive Diaries number 19 coming your way. Figured I'd push something out this weekend. It's still kind of early in the morning, Saturday, so I apologize if I sound a little groggy yet. Still trying to wake up, but I did plan on doing this morning, and it might be a short one too, because actually there's not a whole lot to discuss about this record besides, about the music, not so much about its background. And maybe it'll be something you guys can invest in, because this is one that is still pretty affordable. This is what I would consider cheap heat. And today we're talking about the Facedancers, self-titled one and only LP from 1972. It's a US release here. I think they were based out of Philadelphia area, but it was recorded in New York City, I think. Yeah, Soho. And it was actually produced by Tio Maxero, who produced Miles Davis, Bitches Brew, and several LPs from back in the day. I think he was a lot more of a jazz producer. So kind of interesting footnote there. And looking at the cover, doesn't indicate a whole lot. It's kind of like pixelated is not the right word, but it's like a kind of fuzzy looking painting there. Kind of abstract. Looks like it could be maybe folk-based. But I would say the primary tag on this one is coming in a progressive rock direction. Started out that way. Well, they actually formed as Locomotive, or Lobotomy was their first band name, and I read they were sort of like a comedy act fusing with rock elements when they first started, like in the early 70s. And this one still very much has that 1970 turn of the 60s kind of sound to it, even for being 72, because even around 72 early on, we had a lot of bands like Yes and Pink Floyd kind of progressive rock in a lot of ways, turning a lot more towards symphonic sounds. And this band in a lot of ways kind of sounds like they fell behind a little bit, which I kind of appreciate it for that. That's kind of a little more what I'm looking for, not so much polished, a little more coming out of the psychedelic era, and this one does have some pretty trippy elements and spots. So we start with Little Waterfall, and I should say too, a lot of lengthy tracks, they kind of range from between like 5 to 7 minutes, and starts with a lengthy cut, 7 minutes, Little Waterfall. A lot of jazz chord structures going on, piano work, and oftentimes pretty instrumental throughout this one. Just kind of I don't know if it's free improv or if they're just sort of channeling it in a spiritual way. I don't know what exactly is going on with the arrangements, but I love it either way. But I'd say the second track's one of the bigger highlights from here, Dreamer's Lullaby. It's got a pretty catchy little thing going on with the chorus, and then once it gets to the solo breaks, sounds like it's kind of doing some like synthesizer work. I'm not really sure if there's like an organ player. There's got to be some synthesizing work on here, but definitely one of the bigger standouts here, Dreamer's Lullaby. Then you got a track called Nightmare, probably the most overly dramatic track, maybe still lingering on some of those comedic moments. I mean, to me it's a little funny of a track, just where they go, kind of working with like blues structures, but in a very non-traditional way. And then Jules has some nice flute work. It's very memorable. Kind of probably the most gentle track on here, concluding the first half. Then the second side, opening with Let the Music Set You Free. It's definitely like the heaviest moment on here. It's a little more straightforward rock oriented. It's got some hand clapping. Definitely radio friendly, but in a good way. And then I'd say the last two tracks are definitely the more bigger highlights here. Children, running about 8 minutes long, and then Beta. They kind of work together in a way. Children starts out pretty innocent, and then it kind of just hard cuts into this kind of schizophrenic sounding like jazz meets prog meets psych kind of bag. And especially on the last track too, a lot of trippy stereophonic effects moving throughout, kind of channeling in maybe some German space rock kind of sounds. It's pretty wild once you actually settle in and see what they're kind of doing with these tracks. But pretty good writing overall. Even if a lot of it is improvising, they still deliver pretty well. Now, the only issue with this record, though, that it suffers from, and it's not their fault, it's got a pretty muddy mix overall. Even the transfers online on YouTube sound pretty scratchy and not a lot of clarity in the mix. You know, you can kind of tell it's spread out, but they're just not in full focus. And maybe that's why I like it a little bit, but at the same time, it would be nice to have a little more of a clear picture of what they're playing on here. And I think I just looked up before I made this video, someone had made a 2024 transfer on a Bandcamp. I guess they're on Bandcamp now. I don't know if it's one of the members or if it's somewhat in relationship with them, but I haven't heard it yet. But it's out there. I'll leave the link below if you guys want to get a taste of what that sounds like. Compared to some of the full lengths on here on YouTube, don't sound as good. But yeah, not a whole lot about them except their prehistory. Started as Lobotomy, sort of a comedic act, but there might be a little bit of humor here and there, but not necessarily. It takes it a little more serious direction. And they just kind of have a really nice blend of sounds overall, and definitely makes the Acid Archive cut for me. Got a shot of the label here, kind of a very, it's got that plain, kind of a light gray Paramount label there. So yeah, don't let the prog tag scare you away if it does. I mean, it's still psychedelic in nature, where they take these tracks. And here's the inner sleeve. Same photos as on the back cover. And the lyrics. And then some info on the bottom here. Executive producer. Just the basic credits. Good guitar player too. What's his name? Lead guitar is Kelly Moko. Yeah, let's see what the Acid Archive Diaries says. Acid Archive book. Let's see. Yeah, it's the first one in the F section here. Philadelphia, 1972. Gets the 1 rarity, but nowadays, I haven't checked prices recently, but last I knew, you could pick this up for like, you know, 20 bucks on average all day, so it's pretty affordable. And it says, an early crossover album headed in a prog direction, but before the ground rules for that genre had been established. Some uninteresting solos, but mostly creatively designed songs that show thoughtful experimentalism. Lead singer claims that he hits the highest note ever recorded by a man on a rock record, and it's hard to dispute that claim. Indeed, the girly sounding vocals work well in this context. A few songs are pretty creepy, with Nightmare being a standout. Interesting album that rewards a few close listens. The Facedancers were formerly known as Lobotomy and played comedy rock in that phase. Also by Aaron Malinsky. So yeah, kind of wraps up what I was stating about it, how they started out, but I don't believe any of these musicians went on to do much, at least according to, you know, the blogs and stuff that I read online. So yeah, kind of a short and sweet, simple album here. I think it runs about your average time length, maybe about 40 minutes. And this is all we'd get from them. For a US prog band, this is really excellent. So I've talked about this not too long ago when I first picked it up. I think I found this on eBay, I think maybe for like 10-12 bucks. So it's a great pickup here. Give you something to listen to this weekend. So yeah, I actually scored a record yesterday at an antique shop. And if you guys follow my Instagram, Psychedelic, here's my little plug. Like I'm doing plugs all day. I hate when people do that stuff, but yeah, if you guys want to check me out on there, I'm most active on Instagram, Psychedelic, also on there. And you can find out what I picked up for $6. And then should have an interesting vinyl update. As you can see, Fraction Moonblood has arrived. So get ready for what I have to say about that one. Till next time, have a good weekend, and we shall see you soon.